McCormack of the Catholic Diocese of Manchester. Bishop McCormack.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I am honored to be part of this historic occasion where citizens of our state of varied backgrounds, causes, faith, traditions come together for a common purpose: to urge our elected officials to pass a budget that is just and a budget that meets the needs of the most vulnerable in our society. While I believe that the members of the House have strived to do their best for our state, I am deeply concerned about the budget that the House is in the process of passing, because it does not meet our obligation as a state to care for our fellow citizens in need. While the fundamental requirement of our religious heritage is care for the poor, it is worth noting that this principle is not simply a moral obligation, but it was enshrined by the founding fathers of our state. They wrote in the state constitution that forming people into a society is intended to ensure the protection of others. They also declared that it is the, quote, duty of legislators and magistrates in all future periods of the government to countenance and inculcate the principles of humanity and general benevolence. Public and private charity, and generous sentiments among the people. Close quote. Thus, care for the poor is not just an ideal principle. It is a duty assigned to the general court by the Constitution of our state.
Yes.
Admittedly, I speak not as a member of the general court, but as a person looking at a process that could result in drastic impacts on the poor and most vulnerable in our state. Those who are least able to cope with cuts in our state budget. I believe that in times of fiscal restraint, a spirit of shared sacrifice demands that the entire budget be re-examined. Not simply the cuts proposed by the governor and his department heads. I have advocated and continue to advocate for an ordered approach to this budget that first determines the funding amount necessary to address our obligation as a state to the care of the poor, and only then determines the amounts available for state government itself. Only after funding our foremost obligation to the poor should budget writers proceed to address the needs of the various state departments. Unfortunately, this is not the approach taken in the proposed budget. While I welcome the proposed budget's respect for life and its prohibition for the use of family funds for abortions, I am deeply dismayed that the budget includes a restriction of the collective bargaining rights of public employees. The right of free people to organize to advance their economic and political interest is a fundamental human right. Pope John Paul II, a constant promoter of human rights around the world, stated that trade unions are an indispensable element of social life, especially in modern industrialized societies. Close quote. He spoke and wrote about the importance of freely organized labor unions as a way for workers to become actively involved and enjoy the right of association. Trade unions have an indispensable role in society, and particularly in this time of great economic difficulty. We should preserve free collective bargaining, which promotes collaboration, balance, and justice. The state's spending choices reflect our values as a society. The Catholic Church, along with other religious bodies in New Hampshire, contribute both time and money to care for those most in need. I am confident we will continue to do so, and that men and women of goodwill will continue to make sacrifices to help their neighbors. We are doing our share. We ask that the government, which bears a great responsibility for providing for assistance to those in need, will continue to uphold the long New Hampshire tradition of looking out for one another. In closing, as our legislature considers how to spend our limited state resources that come from the people, we urge the legislature and the governor to place the poor, the unemployed, and our most vulnerable citizens first. Our commitment to human solidarity, the dignity of human labor, and justice for the weak and marginalized demands no less. We, the citizens of New Hampshire, can do better. Our state legislature can do better.